I woke up to cries and screams this morning. What on earth is happening with the cryptocurrency space? Well, don't worry, guys. We've got you covered. Welcome back on this smashing Sunday for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. And I'm sure you all noticed our portfolio sold off last night. And we're going to be looking at why that is. I think there's a lot of uncertainty going into the week that we have ahead of us, certainly on the back end of what was announced by Trump in relation to tariffs on both Mexico and Canada over the kind of immigration issues or the illegal immigration issues. I don't think anybody really has any issues with legal immigration, but illegal immigration, this is a big topic, not just in the US, but also massively here in the UK now. But we're going to be breaking all that down for you in this video, trying to stay on the side of not being biased, but also just looking at how perhaps all of this is going to affect the markets. Lots of takes calling for Trump has now just crashed the markets on the back end of all of this. Of course, Trudeau's reacted. Are we going to see this kind of escalation? More than likely. I think Trudeau picking a fight with Trump is like me calling out John Jones. But we'll see. So let's get into it all, guys. Of course, we'll be looking at the cryptocurrency markets from a price point of view as well, looking at some takes. James Seyfarth, the guy to follow when it comes to ETFs, hinting that this might be the top of the markets. And of course, Robert Kiyosaki also calling for a crash. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki's been calling for a crash as long as I've known of the guy. We're still yet to witness this crash that he's talking about. And it's kind of like Dan Pena being sat in cash for the past 50 years. Okay. We will get this epic crash at once, but I think you've got to be a little bit more intricate when it comes to the markets. I'm also actually just going to pull up, before we dive into it all, the week that we've got ahead of us, because we've got non-farm payrolls, first Friday of the month, so we've got a lot of economic data coming out. The dollars to be watched on all of this are so much, but let's focus on the pressing matters, which is what was announced on Friday. Trump slaps tariffs on Mexico and Canada and China. President Trump is imposing 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada, as well as a 10% duty on China. Energy resources from Canada will have a lower 10% tariff. Okay, that makes sense, doesn't it? The tariffs of Canadian goods, and that makes sense from a point of view where I'm coming from there, is that, of course, energy, they don't really want to spike that too much. And there's a lot of worries we'll talk about on the back end of all this. The tariffs on Canada's goods are expected to take effect on or after midnight on Tuesday. So that's this week. There is no official metric on when the tariffs would be lifted. Tariffs would escalate if the country retaliates in any way against the US. We'll look at what Trudeau has to say. We'll also talk about what Trump's had to say about tariffs that he previously levied in his prior presidency. And then, of course, we'll relate all this to the markets. Trump has long favored tariffs as a tool to negotiate demands for the US trading partners, including long-standing allies. Of course, it's a leverage they could pull. The US, I think, is the biggest or still the second largest exporter outside of China. Let's look at what Trump actually had to say on the matter. So this is from his Twitter. Twitter is such an amazing place for information, guys, or X as it's now called. I keep calling it Twitter to some of your anger. Today, I have implemented a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on China, on Canadian energy, and a 10% additional tariff on China. This was done through the International Emergency Economic Power Act because of the major threat of illegal aliens and deadly drugs killing our citizens, including fentanyl. We need to protect Americans, and it is our duty, or his duty as president, to ensure the safety of all. I made a promise on my campaign to stop the flood of illegal aliens and drugs from pouring across our border, and Americans overwhelmingly voted in favor of it. So these tariffs, and this is from the horse's mouth, you can work out whatever external reasons you want, are being levied against both Mexico and Canada on the back end of them essentially not maintaining a border and almost enabling the pouring in of illicit things and illegal aliens, which of course Trump has been very vocal about. So this happened on Friday. Obviously, it always happens on a Friday, doesn't it, when the traditional markets close, because then we've got this weekend and we kind of get pummeled just simply due to the fact that we're open. And then, of course, in crypto, you get a cascade of liquidations. Really, Bitcoin's just been sort of trapped in this range. I do think eventually it pushes through it. And importantly, just before we continue on with all of this, focus on the bigger picture, guys. We have absolute confidence that Bitcoin is going to continue on that journey to the upside. Just yesterday, we looked at the kind of critical nature of where the total market caps are at. Total, just broken out of all-time highs, consolidating on prior resistance, now flip support, ready to push higher. We showed you plenty of examples of other charts doing this. Total 2, just ran into all-time highs, pulling back as you'd expect. This will set up for continuation, a push through. Total 3, others. You know, we looked at the space technically and really sort of said, look, this is quite a reassuring video from a technical point of view in regards to the fact that we've got a lot of confidence relating to the direction the space is going in. And that's why at times like this, when the markets are volatile, portfolios get kind of shaken around, we can maintain that long and strong approach despite all of the kind of spiraling speculation that's coming on the back end of all of this. That's why you should subscribe to this channel. But this is all happening. I think an interesting thing for me to do now would be to look at Trudeau's response, because he has responded to this. Remember, Trump said if you respond, you know, if you retaliate, we'll make things worse. And Trump or Trudeau kind of picking a fight with Trump is literally like me picking a fight with John Jones. There's a 99.99999% chance, even though I do a little bit of training, that John Jones destroys me and wins that fight. In fact, let's say 100%. So let's go ahead and play this.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Ce soir, j'annonce la réplique du Canada.
And naturally, you can imagine all of the kind of speculation that's coming on the back end of this and how this is going to affect markets. Remember, markets are largely made by companies. Those companies now have to factor in costs on the back end of tariffs. And there is this kind of adjustment and uncertainty that all of this brings. And markets just simply don't like uncertainty. Equity investors are glass half filled investors. They're happy-go-lucky people. You know, it's always, even in the rainy days, they're happy. But there's a lot of uncertainty on the back end of all of this. And of course, really when it comes to crypto, and why we're focusing on this more so is because crypto is just a victim of it. It's like a paper bag in the wind. Eventually that will change as it becomes more and more staple and used and integrated and utilized and entirely overhauls the traditional financial system and all your stocks and everything are ran on it. But for now, when events like this happen, we need to watch and wait. And this is why you're seeing the price action that you're seeing. With crypto, there's always an over-leveraging. Ding-dongs out there still want to leverage trade crypto. I promise you guys, 99% of you will only lose money leverage trading crypto. So why do it? You're better off at a casino. Just invest and you'll do just fine. Unless you can prove that you can do that equation. And let me tell you, all those 100,000 follower crypto trading accounts that promise you all these signals and stuff like that, you'll never get a P&L, a real one. You'll never get any proof of that. Anyway, just my rant again. So Trump has also spoken when asked about tariffs. We'll play that and then we'll proceed. We'll also look at the week ahead and some takes in regards to it's now over, guys. You know, the top is in. We're saying no. Technically, we've got a beautiful trajectory ahead of us and we've got confidence across the space. So do not fear, guys. Allincrypto is here.
I had almost no inflation, and yet I charged hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs to countries. And think of it, I had almost no inflation and I took in $600 billion of money from other countries. And tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success. Cause big success. So we're going to have great success.
I would like to add those tariffs that he's talking about were under slightly different circumstances. Really, he's leveraging tariffs as a way to get what he wants is in regards to Mexico and Canada's border. Again, there's just this readjustment of all of this. I think we always knew Trump's presidency was going to be interesting. and there was going to be twists and turns, and this is one of them. There's going to be multiple others. Certainly, if we look at the Russia-Ukraine situation, there's still a resolution on that has to come. There's going to be, you've got to take this, the sort of rough with the smooth. And, you know, Nirvana is not for this world. I've always said I actually think Trump will do a better job than his predecessor. But again, Nirvana's not for this world. There's always going to be twists and turns, and people can debate all day long the tariff argument. I think there's a lot of grey in it. Yes, if you put 25% on something, that's going to increase its price. It's going to increase the cost of production, etc. It's going to do a lot. But there's also other levers and elements that need to go into it broadly, and competitive, you know, nature. So Trump's all about America, and he's sort of doing all this on the back end of it. Again, the price action for the cryptocurrency space, really, it's just bared the brunt. It's not liking this uncertainty. For me, I'll buy this up because I ultimately have a lot of confidence in the broader direction that we're going. Yesterday, we did a video where I think it really highlighted what's to come through the lens of technical analysis and looking at how charts will break out into all-time highs, just like we were looking at for Bitcoin here. And people getting very scared, certainly when it was in the 50s. And we said, just hang on, guys. You know, we've got this broader technical plan, and we got there. There's lots of takes coming out now. This is from James Seyfarth. This really does feel like something you'd look back at and be like, obviously, we were near the top. People were bragging in the news articles about dumping stocks to buy Bitcoin with their kids. College funds, okay. Either paradigm shift or toppy behavior. I'll go with the former, not the latter. But, you know, like Trump launching a meme coin, you could say that's very toppy behavior. We've got Robert Kiyosaki here. Trump tariffs begin. Gold, silver, Bitcoin may crash. May crash. I think Robert's done amazing work, more than I have, to affect certainly more people than I have. But he's been calling for a crash as long as I've heard of Robert Kiyosaki, which was probably reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad multiple years, you know, tens of years ago. We'll buy more after price crashes. Real problem is debt, which will only get worse. Crashes mean assets are on sale. Time to get rich. I'm not convinced we're going to get this crash. I wouldn't be surprised if markets resolve themselves on Monday. Right now, the only really market that we've got to go on, although I'll get a little bit more clarity when some of the FX markets open tonight over the Sunday session, or we'll get a little bit of pricing. All that we really have to go on is what the crypto markets are doing. And really, they're just acting on uncertainty due to bigger markets shaking them. When we look at the week ahead that we've got, it's going to be an interesting one. I think more importantly, obviously we've got ADPs, we've got ISMs, Bank of England rate decision. They're expected to cut rates, finally, although their bond market's in trouble. I say they're our bond market. I am from the UK. I'm British and very proud to be British. Despite the efforts that are being, taken at the moment to make it a kind of sin to be. Friday, we've also got US non-farm payrolls, which is going to be the big one. It's a barometer for the economy. And, you know, ultimately this is going to affect monetary policy, which I think is going to support the weakening of the dollar and the kind of pumping of risk assets. But there's a spanner being thrown into the works that came on the back end of Friday's tariffs announcements. Let's have it out in the comments, guys. I'm sure some of you are for tariffs, some of you are against. Just be respectful. You know, there's no problem with us having a debate about it. I think there's a lot of grey with tariffs. It's not black and white. There are black and white areas. But I think Trudeau escalating this instead of trying to resolve it for businesses by fixing the borders. They don't need to worry about their own borders, but more the American border. Wasn't perhaps the best move. Again, it's kind of like me trying to fight John Jones. That's only going one way, and likely going to be a lot of pain involved in that. And I'm not calling out John Jones if he happens to watch those videos. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. He definitely doesn't. I'll see you all in the next one. Let's see how Monday shapes up.